Hi, I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I'm the host of the No BS Coaching Advice podcast here on Anchor.fm. If you've always wanted to start a podcast, Anchor makes it ridiculously easy to do it. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's completely free and ridiculously easy to use. I know I've used two other services. One was very expensive, like $700 a month expensive, until I realized I was getting hosed, and now it costs me much less, but it still costs me. Another service that's inexpensive, but it still costs me. Again, it's 100% free. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. I do no BS coaching advice here, and it is a breeze. I can record on my laptop. I can record live off my phone. Again, very, very easy to use. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. This is the No BS Coaching Advice Podcast, episode 135. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. I like to spend some time weekly talking with you about some aspect of life, the universe, everything. I may change that a little bit and add, shall we say, an interesting observation I have from time to time, and include that as an in-between-isode, if you know what I mean. Something I do in addition to the weekly show. And as I often do, I'm amazed at how themes come together over the course of a few days. And we had the space program celebrating the 50th year of the landing on the moon, which is something I missed, even though I was alive at the time. I was working at a camp in upstate New York, no TVs, no nothing. And I didn't see it live as so much of the world did. And being totally honest, at that age, at that time, I really didn't care. I know it sounds stupid so many years later, but, I really didn't care. One of the great things that's come about with this celebration of the space program has been a review of some of its history. And although there's been a focus on the Kennedy announcement and the ultimate landing, one of the unnoticed stories is about how many times there were opportunities to what I'll call blink, to hesitate, to not move forward, to not move ahead with the program. Like, at the time when the Apollo 1 caught fire on the launch pad and 3 astronauts died from smoke inhalation, it would have been very easy for them to stop and not go further, cancel the whole damn thing. And I remember it at that time. That was one of the things of conversation. And yet they moved forward. And it reminds me of how often, I know for myself, I blink in the face of an adversity and turn back rather than learn my lesson and move forward. I become so afraid of taking that next step for fear of making a mistake that I stop things. I wonder if that's true of you, and whether upon hearing this, there's something that you can course correct on that you've been blinking about too. On Sundays, I get together with a few friends and we either have breakfast or sit and talk. And, the conversations are wonderful. One of the things that someone said yesterday, and I don't want to offer the context because it's not really necessary, but he said something that I wrote down, which is, some people have answers and no one asks them for what they know. It's almost as though we'd rather figure it out on our own and do it the hard way rather than overcoming that hurdle, blinking at that moment or risking blinking at that moment rather than get the answer and move ahead. Does that really make a lot of sense when you stop and think about it? Like, some answers you have to work through. Like if you're creating something new, obviously you got to work on it yourself because you're the one with the vision and the approach. But where you get stuck, you risk blinking and turning back and conceding and moving into the bunker of failure. I'll just simply say, folks, there are people with answers to your questions. There are people who will offer help, support, and assistance. If you don't want to ask friends, family, colleague, or whomever, hire a coach. But, the fact is, if you're stuck, why stay stuck? The idea is to continue to take action and move ahead rather than blink. Sam Darnold is the quarterback for the New York Jets, a top draft pick. I think he was number 3 in the draft class when he came out over a year ago. And he was being interviewed on ESPN and observed that, ESPN had noticed that in the last 4 games of the season, Darnold was the highest ranked quarterback according to one survey and one group of statistics. Ahead of the MVP candidate, again, ahead of another great quarterback. He had been number 1 even though he's a rookie. He's in his first few games in his first season, yet the last 4 top ranked. And they asked him how this happened because early in the season he had struggled. As a matter of fact, in his first game as quarterback, his first pass got returned for a touchdown by the other team. And he said something I thought was wonderful that continues on this theme. And he said, we had this guy, Josh McCown, who's an older, more experienced quarterback, who would tell him what to do. And he'd try and do it, but there was a point in the season where Darnold was injured and he had to be on the sidelines watching. And then noticing how McCown commanded the huddle and commanded himself as the leader of the team to inspire his troops that he had it. Well, that made a difference to him because it wasn't just simply being told what to do. It was having the chance to see how it's done. Is that what you really need, is to have someone show you how it's done, not just simply tell you how it's done? This weekend was the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame induction in Cooperstown. And one of the men who was inducted into the Hall of Fame was Mariano Rivera, the great relief pitcher for the New York Yankees for the 1990s and 2000s. Rivera had more saves than any other pitcher in baseball history and was the first unanimous selection to the Hall of Fame. And I must say, in this age of me, a very decent man. Raised in Panama, he had the idea of being a soccer player but wasn't good enough, and decided he would play baseball. And at age 19, in one of those flukes of life, he was a position player, and he was asked to go in and pitch by his coach. And he threw 2 shutout innings, and by some coincidence, there was a Yankee scout there. The scout sees him and invites him to a tryout. Now, this is not a wealthy family, and he didn't really have a glove. He had holes in his shoes, and he goes to the tryout, and he has a cardboard glove. Catch that one, folks. His glove is made of cardboard, and his shoes have holes in them, and he pitches well enough to be signed by the Yankees for, I think the story goes, $2,000. He comes to the United States. He can't speak English. He's at the airport and doesn't know how to get to where he's supposed to go to. He eventually gets there. And Fast forwarding, he learns English well enough from one of his minor league teammates who helps him learn. And eventually gets to the Yankees as a starting pitcher and is god awful. Awful. His earned run average in 4 starts is over 10. If you don't know baseball, these days a decent one is in the 4s. It starts getting bad at 5. And he's at 10. So he's sent to the minor leagues. And he's playing catch with one of his teammates. And suddenly the ball starts moving. The same way he's always thrown it, it's got motion to it that it never had before. Now, they tried to control it. They couldn't. And eventually decided, let's just go with it. And out of that one pitch, which he says, I threw successfully for 17 years, where I have no idea what I did differently to bring it about, suddenly he's in the Hall of Fame. Folks, luck plays a big part of this. Karma plays a big part of this. Doing what's right throughout your life, practicing and being humble has a big part to do with this. The man is decent, a Hall of Fame performer, and all because of an accident. Multiple accidents throughout his life. Again, he didn't know that scout was going to be there. He somehow got to spring training, but he didn't speak the language and didn't know how to get there. The pitch suddenly moved, and they couldn't correct it. Life has a way of passing on gifts and problems to us. That problem with the pitch that day was a huge gift. Are you staring at anything that you're describing to yourself as a problem that could be a gift to you? That could be the life changer, as that challenge was for Rivera. So that's today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen to the show. Just subscribe so you get downloads whenever I release a new episode. Each show is going to be bite-sized morsels of advice just like today's. I hope you enjoyed it, and I do hope you subscribe. And if you do choose to subscribe, I hope you decide to support the show. There's a link that will take you to anchor.fm where you can make a pledge in support of the show. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in my coaching you, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you listen to the show. I just happen to like knowing I'm helping some folks. And once we're connected, message me about your interest in coaching. We'll set up a free call. We'll get acquainted, see if it makes sense. I'll be back soon with more. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. Take care.